I went through every season in Major League Baseball since the year 2000 with one goal. I wanted to find out who the most underrated player was in that singular season. So here they are, the most underrated players in Major League Baseball for every year since the year 2000. Don't forget to subscribe. Getting us started in the year 2000, the most underrated player that season is Richard Hidalgo. Big Richard Hidalgo fan over here. I don't know why. I remember him so fondly with the Mets. I guess because he hit 21 homers in 86 games back in 2004. But we're talking about his 2000 season where he put up 6.3 baseball reference WAR, hit 44 homers, 42 doubles, drove in 122 RBIs, stole 13 bases, hit 314 with a 390 on base, 636 slugging, and a 1028 OPS for an OPS plus at 147. Hidalgo finished 20th in the National League MVP voting that year, and this was back in the day. And of course, a big reason for this was the Astros finished in 4th place in the National League Central that year. And this is when voting cared about where your team finished. But for Hidalgo to finish 20th in the MVP voting not only showed how insane the offense was in baseball during the early 2000s, but how good you truly had to be recognized as one of the best players, because 40, 40, and 120 with a 1028 OPS, that should be winning MVPs, not finishing 20th. So shout out Richard Hidalgo, most underrated player of 2000. For the most underrated player in the year 2001, I've got to give a shout out to Troy Glaus. I have no idea how, back-to-back seasons of hitting 40-plus home runs, Troy Glaus did not receive a single MVP vote. I'm not even talking first-place MVP votes, I'm talking down ballot, finishing in the 20th spot. In 2001, after a season in 2000 where Troy Glaus hit 47 homers, had an 1,000 OPS, he followed it up with a 41 homer, 38 double, 108 RBI season, stealing 10 bases. He was worth 5 WAR that year, according to Baseball Reference, 5.2 WAR, a 367 on base, 531 slugging, and an 898 OPS for an OPS plus at 133. He made the All-Star team, he won the Silver Slugger for the position, but he did not get any MVP votes. And Glaus was a pretty good third baseman early on in his career as well defensively, so it was pretty shocking to see that Troy Glaus did not receive the recognition he deserved, not only in 2001, but even the prior year where his numbers were better. The guy was an on-base machine, definitely underrated. Next up, we've got the 2002 season, and I think we have to talk about the 13th place MVP finisher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Brian Giles. Brian Giles low-key had a pretty amazing MLB career, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s. The dude was an absolute menace of a player. In 2002, he arguably had the best season of his career, was worth 5.3 WAR that season, hit 38 homers, 37 doubles, 5 triples, 103 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases. He hit 298 with a 450 on base. That was the second highest on-base percentage in Major League Baseball that year, only behind Barry Bonds, who had a 582. Giles was a strong fielder, great hitter at the plate. He was just on horrendously bad Pittsburgh Pirates teams of the early 2000s, so he was just genuinely an underrated player. But to put up those numbers, an OPS over 1,000 at 1072, what a phenomenal year by Brian Giles, one that gets forgotten by a lot of people. The first pitcher in today's video, the most underrated player from the 2003 season, Kevin Brown. Now, you have to keep in mind that this was the era in which Cy Young Award votes were handed out to guys who had the most wins in the league. They weren't concerned about ERA, they weren't concerned about actual quality of pitching, they just wanted to see a high number in the win column for the starting pitcher. And despite Kevin Brown having the 3rd lowest ERA among qualified starters in Major League Baseball, because his record was only 14-9, Kevin Brown did not receive a Cy Young vote in the year 2003. He threw 211 innings, a 2.39 ERA, a whip at 1.37, a FIP at 2.82. Kevin Brown was inside the top 10 for K rate that season. Again, a lot of these stats are more appreciated now than they were in 2003, but it's crazy to me that a guy like Kevin Brown, again, did not receive any Cy Young votes, and players on his own team with inferior numbers got on the ballot, all while being 38 years old and having a phenomenal season. Kevin Brown is kind of an underrated pitcher just in general in the grand scheme of Major League Baseball, but this 2003 season, criminally underrated. For the most underrated player in the 2004 season, I'm going to Baltimore to talk about Melvin Mora. Melvin Mora finished 18th in the American League MVP voting that year, despite having the highest on-base percentage in the league at 419. Mora was a really solid defensive third baseman who also had a really nice bat. This was by far the best season of his career, put up 5.6 BWAR, hit 27 homers, 41 doubles, 104 RBIs, and stole 11 bases, hitting 340. Like I said, a 419 on base, the highest in the American League, 562 slugging, and an OPS at 981 for an OPS plus at 155. Just for some context, in the year 2004, there were 9 qualified hitters with an OPS above 1,000. Melvin Mora was 13th highest in OPS in Major League Baseball. When we're talking about these underrated players. These numbers are great, but obviously there were better players. A guy like Melvin Mora, underappreciated that season. So good. You know, I had to throw a New York Met in there. In 2005, Pedro Martinez was the most underrated player in Major League Baseball. Pedro made 31 starts that year for the New York Mets in his first season with them, 217 innings, an ERA at 2.82, a Major League best whip at .949 at 33 years of age, striking out over 200 batters. He had a FIP at 2.95, the best strikeout to walk ratio in the league, and similarly, he did not receive any Cy Young votes despite being fourth the year prior, third, second, winning it 3 times. It's not like people didn't know who Pedro Martinez was. He certainly wasn't washed. Put up 7 WAR that year as a pitcher. Again, looking at ERA, he was the 4th lowest in Major League Baseball, 5th lowest FIP, one of the best K rates, and he was a workhorse. Pedro's had some phenomenal seasons in his career, obviously, but this 2005 one, first year with the Mets, is sneaky really good. Okay, let's get crazy now. The most underrated player for the 2006 season, first baseman of the Washington Nationals, Nick Johnson. In their second season in Washington, Nick Johnson, as a first baseman, put up a 5 WAR season with 23 homers, 46 doubles, 77 RBIs, and stole 10 bases. He walked 110 times while only striking out 99, hit .290 with a .428 on base, .520 slugging, and .948 OPS for an OPS plus at 149. The reason this guy gets underrated, think about some of the great first basemen of the time. They were hitting for mega power, they were simply just better. But for a guy like Nick Johnson, who was getting on base at an elite clip, he had the 6th highest on base percentage in Major League Baseball. That's an incredible season, especially when you're walking more than you struck out on a horrendously bad Washington Nationals team. There weren't many guys to pitch to in this lineup. This was by and large the best season of his career, and one that I promise most of you watching did not know about. Next up, we've got the 2007 season, and this was a rookie year. In 2007, Ryan Braun made his rookie debut for the Milwaukee Brewers, played in 113 games, and put up astronomical numbers. He did get MVP votes, 24th in the National League MVP voting, and he did win Rookie of the Year. But I think in the grand scheme of things, this guy had an argument to be way higher up on the list, especially because the Brewers finished above 500 this year and made a push for the playoffs, and Ryan Braun was a huge part of it. In his rookie season, he hit 34 homers, 26 doubles, 97 RBIs, a .324 average, .370 on base, a National League best slugging percentage at .634 with an OPS at 1,004. Say what you want about Ryan Braun. We know he took steroids. We know he was kind of a bit of a dirtbag because of the steroid suspension or the lack thereof. But that rookie season and honestly the prime of Ryan Braun's career, unbelievably impressive. The guy was on a Hall of Fame path. And that rookie year, really, really good. This one is actually crazy. In the year 2008, Milton Bradley had the highest OPS in the American League. I know, you heard that correctly. Milton Bradley had the highest OPS in the American League for the Texas Rangers. He had the 4th highest OPS in Major League Baseball, only behind Manny Ramirez, Chipper Jones, and Albert Pujols. Bradley was kind of an on-base king before it really became cool. In that 2008 season, which is by far the best season of his career, 22 homers, 32 doubles, 77 RBIs. He hit .321 with an American League best .436 on base, .563 slugging for a .999 OPS and an OPS plus at 162. He was literally the most productive, effective, and best hitter statistically by rates in the American League that year, and he finished 17th in the MVP voting. Obviously, the Rangers didn't make the playoffs that year. They finished under 500, second in the AL West. But that's just a wildly underrated season. The highest OPS in the American League. Literally never knew this before researching for the video. Bring it back to the pitching side here for the 2009 season. Miami Marlins starting pitcher Josh Johnson. As a Mets fan, I remember Josh Johnson fondly meaning he was always such an amazing pitcher, but he killed the Mets. And if it weren't for injuries, this guy would have had a fantastic career. But in the year 2009, pitching 209 innings on the season, a 3.23 ERA, a whip at 1.158, and a FIP at 3.06, he did not get a single Cy Young vote. Now, he did make the All-Star team that year, but I found it shocking that, again, he just didn't get any love with the Cy Young voters. While his ERA wasn't astronomically low, again, 3.23 is not the lowest. There were 11 pitchers in Major League Baseball that qualified and had an ERA under 3 that season. He was still 18th in terms of Major League Baseball in ERA. He was top 20 in K rate in Major League Baseball that season at 22.3%, and he went deep into games, over 200 innings pitched. Any chance I get to kind of hype up Josh Johnson, I will, because his career was just so fast. He won an ERA title one year, the next season actually in 2010, but sneaky, that 2009 season was the one where he really broke out, and then people started to recognize in 2010. Speaking of that 2010 season, the most underrated player that year was Ricky Weeks Jr. Fantastic year by Ricky. Always a player that I was a big fan of. He didn't even make the All-Star team this season at second base, which is kind of funny. Overall in the year, 29 homers, 32 doubles, 4 triples, 83 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. He hit .269 229 with a 366 on base, 464 slugging, 830 OPS for an OPS plus at 123. In terms of F4, Ricky Weeks was inside the top 20 players in Major League Baseball, accumulating 6 F4. Big reason he was a great base runner and a great fielder. And in what was the best season of his career, to not get any recognition at all for all the accomplishments he had, pretty underrated to me. Back to the pitching side we go. In 2011, the most underrated player that season, Doug Fister. Fister, I hardly know her. What a pitcher he was that year. In 2011, he made 32 appearances, 31 starts between the Seattle Mariners and Detroit Tigers, 216 innings pitched, an ERA at 2.83, a whip at 1.063. What really baffled me is when he went to the Tigers, he was even better. A huge reason why they were able to make it all the way to the ALCS. And over those 11 appearances, 70 starts with the Tigers, he had a 1.79 ERA, a whip at 0.83. The numbers were even better, playing winning baseball. Couldn't believe this guy not only didn't make the All-Star team, but again, did not get a Cy Young vote. You're kind of catching a common theme here. This is how I'm proving they're underrated. Doug Fister had a top 10 ERA in the league. Not nearly enough love for Doug Fister, who ended up having a pretty solid Major League career. 2011, though, might have been his best season. No love. The year 2012, wasn't that the year the world was supposed to end anyway? Josh Willingham was playing like it was. This one is kind of hilarious to me. Josh Willingham won the Silver Slugger Award for the Minnesota Twins in 2012 as an outfielder, hit 35 homers, 30 doubles, 110 RBIs, 260 average, 366 on base, 524 slugging, 890 OPS for an OPS plus at 143. Again, by and large, the best season of his entire career. And you heard me mention he won the Silver Slugger. Not a single MVP vote, didn't make the All-Star game, no recognition. They were just like, hey, you're a really good hitter, but that's it. It was a bad Minnesota Twins team, and I know we used to care a lot about batting average there, and Willingham was definitely not an average guy, but 30-30 and 110, what an incredible year for a bit of a journeyman outfielder who had some pop for sure. In 2013, the Kansas City Royals made a transition from their former number 1 overall pick, Luke Hochevar, and turned him into a reliever. Hochevar used to be a starter. They turned him into a reliever, and it was an absolutely dominant season. Now, one of the reasons he was underrated, he wasn't a closer. So you're never going to get any Cy Young votes back in 2013 as a reliever who dominated but didn't get saves. That being said, in 58 appearances, 70 innings, which that's really valuable, Hochevar had a 1.92 ERA, a whip at .825. He struck out 31.3% of the batters he faced, walking only 6.5%. He was an absolute beast on the mound as a reliever in 2013. A guy who's genuinely been considered a bust because he just didn't make it as a starting pitcher. That year in 2013 as a reliever, there weren't many better in Major League Baseball. For the 2014 season, Tehran made the All-Star team. Again, didn't get a single Cy Young vote despite having an ERA under 3. That seems baffling to me. Also had a low whip. In 221 innings, he had a 2.89 ERA, a whip at 1.081, a FIP at 3.49. Tehran had a pretty good K-to-walk ratio too, around 16%. He was just a really solid pitcher. Big problem, the Atlanta Braves didn't win a lot of games for him. He was 14-13 in the 33 starts he made that year. A record around 500 in the mid-2010s was a recipe for disaster. We had not gotten hip yet to wins not mattering for starting pitchers. He's probably one of the last guys who got screwed here. Tehran had a phenomenal year, but kind of so did every other pitcher, which probably makes him underrated as well. You forgot about him. There were 22 pitchers in Major League Baseball that season with an ERA under 3. That qualified. Tehran was one of them. Ooh, get to show a catcher some love here. For the 2015 season, the most underrated player, in my opinion, Francisco Cervelli. This one's gonna be a little bit out there, a little abstract, but I wanted to get weird at some point, and why not pick the 2015 season and Francisco Cervelli? Cervelli that year with the Pirates had the 12th most F4 in Major League Baseball at 5.9. That's kind of shocking. Now, the counting numbers are never gonna be interesting for a guy like Cervelli. 7 homers, 17 doubles, 5 triples, 43 RBIs. But the slash line over 130 games, 500 plate appearances, 295 average, 370 on base, 401 slugging for a 771 OPS and OPS plus at 113. That plus his incredible defense. He was cash money behind the plate that year, one of the best defensive players according to Fangraphs in baseball, made him an extremely valuable player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates made the playoffs that year. They won 98 games. You don't do that without Francisco Cervelli being behind the dish every single day. Damn, Starling Marte was on that team. Oh my God, I'm getting so old. For the 2016 season, the most underrated player in my opinion, Brian Dozier. Now the year prior, Dozier kind of broke out with the Twins, hit 28 homers, nearly 40 doubles, got some MVP votes. The following season in 2016 was even better. 42 homers, 35 doubles, 99 RBIs, 18 stolen bases, 268 average, 340 on base, 546 slugging for 886 OPS, and an OPS plus at 134. Like I said, 13th in the MVP voting. Dozier played a fantastic second base. He was a really good fielder. And when you have good defense at second base while hitting 40 homers and 30 doubles and driving in nearly 100 runs, that's an incredible season. Brian Dozier was 7th in Major League Baseball in F4. Again, I know these numbers weren't necessarily being used back in 2016 as much to make these decisions, but that's an incredible season for Dozier, one where he definitely should have gotten more recognition from the voters. But again, the Twins were horrendously bad that year. Whoa. Do you guys remember Domingo Santana? Yeah, his 2017 season was basically the only good season of his entire career at the major league level. But as a 24-year-old in 2017, Domingo Santana hit 30 homers, 29 doubles, 85 RBIs, and stole 15 bases. He had 278 with a 371 on base, 505 slugging, 875 OPS for an OPS plus at 126. What? Now defensively, he was horrible. He was putrid. But at the plate, what an incredibly good year. Now, yes, he struck out almost 200 times, almost a third of the times he got to the plate. But 30, 85, and 15, that's a really underrated season for a guy like Domingo Santana, who was kind of a one-hit wonder in Major League Baseball. I know he ended up making his way to Japan and playing in foreign lands, but Shomingo, he had one great year. 2017 was a big one for him. David Stern's new ball back then. For the 2018 season, the most underrated player in Major League Baseball that year, Brandon Nimmo. That's right, I'm giving Brandon Nimmo some love. He was awesome in 2018. He finally became an everyday player for the New York Mets. Hit 263 with a 404 on base, 483 slugging, 886 OPS for an OPS plus at 148. He was getting on base. He hit 17 homers, 28 doubles, 8 triples. He was playing good defense in the outfield at a variety of different positions. I kind of even forgot about this 2018 season of Brandon Nimmo's until I did my research. He was a top 20 player in F4, finishing with 5 that season. In terms of WRC+, Brandon Nimmo had the 6th highest WRC plus that year at 148. That's insane for a 25-year-old Brandon Nimmo who was becoming an everyday player for the first time. And of course, not a single amount of recognition. To be fair, I don't think he should have gotten any votes, but that's a really, really good first full season as a player, and to have the 6th highest WRC plus is kind of insane. 2019 season, juiced balls, it was absolutely crazy. I'm gonna pick the guy who had the most home runs in the American League that year, Jorge Soler. Anytime you hit 48 homers, drive in 117, 33 doubles, I mean, we're looking at a guy who had over 80 extra base hits, a 922 OPS, OPS plus at 137, 569 slugging. This was a monster season for Soler. He's never come close to it again. I'm sure the juice balls did help, but hitting 48 homers in Kansas City at 27 years of age, after kind of being seen as a little bit of a bust with the Chicago Cubs, that was a pretty incredible year. He finished 21st in the MVP voting. Royals did suck, to be fair. 2020, the COVID season. This is gonna go down as one of the weirdest seasons we've ever watched. I'll tell you this, I don't remember Will Myers completely balling out like he did. In the 55 games he played that year, 15 homers, 14 doubles, 40 RBIs, a 288 average, 353 on base, 606 slugging for a 959 OPS, 160 OPS plus. Will Myers the following season played 100 more games, only hit 2 more homers and 10 more doubles. This season was low-key awesome for Will Myers and the San Diego Padres in 2020. They made a run all the way to the NLDS, lost to the Dodgers. It's a good Padres team, and Will Myers was a major part of it. That's an incredibly productive season. Finished 16th in MVP voting. Looking back at the 2021 season, Kyle Tucker was criminally underrated. As a 24-year-old, similar to Nimmo at one point, playing every single day for the first time, Kyle Tucker came out and balled out. 30 homers, 37 doubles, 92 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, hitting 294 with a 359 on base, 557 slugging, and a 917 OPS. OPS plus at 147. He finished 20th in the MVP voting. There was guys on his own team who played inferior, but made it higher up on the list. I actually don't know how Kyle Tucker's year in 2021 didn't get more recognition. The Astros made the World Series. They were one of the best teams in baseball, and Kyle Tucker was a huge part of it. So good, and obviously now he's one of the best players in the league. Keeping in the state of Texas, my most underrated player for the 2022 season, Nathaniel Lowe. Nathaniel Lowe was awesome in 2022 for the Rangers. Won a Silver Slugger, hit over 300, a 302 average, 358 on base, 492 slugging for an 851 OPS, OPS plus at 139, 27 homers, 26 doubles, 76 RBIs. The counting stats don't particularly sound crazy, but he did win the Silver Slugger award. In terms of OPS, he was inside the top 20 among qualified hitters. When you look at WRC plus, he was inside the top 15. And when you have guys like Aaron Judge, Yordan Alvarez, Shohei Ohtani playing in your same league, sometimes even in the same division, you definitely get overlooked. But Nathaniel Lowe had a higher WRC plus that season than Shohei Ohtani. Had an OPS that was only 20 points lower. Show my boy Nathaniel Lowe some love. Back to the pitching side we go for the 2023 season. My most underrated player, Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly, never one of the best pitchers in baseball, and this isn't even me arguing for Cy Young votes. But Merrill Kelly giving the Arizona Diamondbacks, after another great season in 2022 of 200 plus innings, a low 3 ERA, he did it again in 2023. 177 innings, 3.29 ERA, a whip at 1.19. Kelly struck out 26% of the batters he's faced, walked under 10%. He looked like a really, really good pitcher and was very valuable for the Arizona Diamondbacks that year. I mean, they lost in the World Series. Merrill Kelly was a major reason why they were ever able to go on that run. He's a boring pitcher. He's not exciting to watch. He looks like Woogie. But Merrill Kelly stays underrated, and definitely was in 2023. Maybe a crazy pick here, but for the 2024 season, my most underrated player is going to be Teoscar Hernandez. The reason I say this is not because he didn't get recognition. It's not that. On his own team, he's considered like the 6th best hitter, so you kind of forget, but Teoscar was an integral part of why the Dodgers were able to win a World Series last year. That right-handed power that he brought was incredible, and while defensively he is a bit of a butcher out there, what he brought to the plate lengthened this lineup and made them so much harder to beat. 33 homers, 32 doubles, 99 RBIs, and sneaky stole 12 bases last season, a 272 average, 339 on base, 501 slugging for an OPS at 840 and an OPS plus at 136. He made the All-Star team. He won the Silver Slugger, 19th in MVP voting, but I genuinely think that Teoscar Hernandez made a much bigger impact for this Dodgers team in their World Series run than a lot of people maybe outside the Dodgers fan base would give him credit for. They don't win it without him. As for the 2025 season, we're still very much in it, but I think one of the most underrated players in the league right now is Jonathan Aranda for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's on a terrible team. They're not very good, so you're not going to hear a lot about him. But Aranda so far in 45 games has an OPS at 880, on-base percentage approaching 400 at 391, hitting over 300 himself at 306. He's a barrel king, hits the ball hard. He's exactly what the Rays are looking for, which is an on-base machine who has some pop. 6 homers, 9 doubles, 24 RBIs on the year. The numbers aren't jump off the page crazy, but a 152 OPS plus through the first 50 games of the season. Aranda's my pick for the most underrated player this year. There they are, the most underrated players for every year since the year 2000. I'd love to know who you guys think were some of the most underrated players since the year 2000 down in the comment section below. Remember to drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the baseball content coming at you. Follow me on all my social media. GiraffeNeckMark links are in the description, and that's where I'll wrap it up. You guys know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload, so click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!